Wait, they went through his phone?
No, they're going to go through his phone. Oh my god. Hey, what are you doing here?
No, he's not.
Gonna be arrested too.
What? Why?
Yes, I told him.
Inside the back of a Florida police car, two teenage girls sat side by side in handcuffs, laughing like they had just survived detention instead of being arrested for attempted murder. One complained she had not had enough time to do her makeup before her mugshot. The other joked about whether they would end up in the same jail together. Their voices sounded light, relaxed, almost excited. And that is exactly what made investigators uncomfortable. Because outside that patrol car sat an entirely different reality. Detectives had already recovered a 12-inch knife from a backpack. Prosecutors were preparing attempted first-degree murder charges. And investigators believed these girls had spent nearly 3 months planning to kill another student inside Lake Brantley High School. But somehow, to them, it still felt unreal. Lake Brantley High School looked ordinary from the outside. Crowded hallways, loud classrooms, teenagers rushing through another normal school day. Nothing about the campus suggested that hidden somewhere inside those hallways was a violent fantasy quietly growing stronger every single day. That is what makes this case feel so disturbing. The danger did not come from an outsider forcing their way onto campus. It came from two girls who blended perfectly into everyday school life. 15-year-old Isabel Valdez, known by some classmates as Jimmy, allegedly developed an obsession with Adam Lanza, the Sandy Hook shooter responsible for one of the deadliest school massacres in American history. But investigators say this went far beyond curiosity about true crime. Over time, Valdez reportedly immersed herself in online communities that glorified mass killers, spaces where murderers were analyzed like celebrities, where violence became aesthetic, where infamy became something admired instead of feared. Inside those communities, tragedy slowly transformed into mythology, and eventually, reality itself began to blur. According to investigators, Valdez convinced herself that killing another student could create what she described as a supernatural blood bond with Adam Lanza. She allegedly believed murder could spiritually reconnect her to him. It sounds irrational, impossible, completely detached from reality, but that distorted belief became the emotional center of the entire plot. Police later revealed disturbing writings allegedly connected to Valdez, describing the planned killing almost like an act of devotion. Not hatred, not revenge, devotion. That detail changes everything, because it reveals something deeply disturbing, a teenager who no longer viewed death as horrifying, but as proof of loyalty to a fantasy she had built inside her own mind. And the target was not random. Investigators say Valdez specifically chose a male student because she believed he physically resembled Adam Lanza. For weeks, she allegedly memorized his class schedule, followed him through school hallways, and secretly photographed him without his knowledge. This was no longer teenage fantasy. It had become surveillance, preparation, predatory behavior, hidden beneath the appearance of an ordinary student. And Valdez was not alone. Authorities say 14-year-old Lois Lippert became deeply involved in the planning process. According to police reports, Lippert helped sharpen the 12-inch knife intended for the attack. Investigators claim she even tested the blade against her own skin to check how sharp it was. Police also discovered disturbing drawings reportedly created by Lippert. Images depicting the victim dead while Valdez stood nearby. According to prosecutors, Lippert also helped prepare supplies for the attack: latex gloves, flowers meant to be placed beside the body, cigarettes intended to be smoked afterward while waiting for police to arrive, cleaning materials. That final detail may be the most disturbing of all, because it suggests the girls were not only imagining the murder itself, they were imagining the aftermath too. Almost like they wanted the crime to become a performance. Something unforgettable. Something that would make them part of the same violent mythology they had spent months obsessing over online. According to investigators, the attack plan itself was horrifyingly specific. The victim would allegedly be forced into a bathroom stall inside the school. Valdez reportedly planned to either stab him in the stomach or cut his throat. Afterward, investigators believe the girls intended to perform what they described as a blood ritual, and then they would wait for police. Think about that for a moment. These were teenagers discussing murder, with the emotional detachment of people planning a school project, and the gloves and cleaning supplies made the situation even darker. Even though they allegedly expected to be arrested afterward, they still prepared items to wipe away evidence. Not because they believed they would escape, but because the act itself mattered more than the consequences. Then everything changed because of one anonymous message. On the night before the planned attack, someone submitted a warning through the Fortify FL safety app. The message was simple but urgent. A student planned to kill someone at school the following day. That single decision may have saved a life, maybe several lives. The next morning, police searched Valdez's backpack and found the knife before the alleged attack could happen. Both girls were arrested immediately, but the story became even darker once the patrol car footage was released. Inside the vehicle, the girls laughed about prison sentences. They joked about becoming jail girlfriends. They discussed mugshots like they were preparing for social media photos. At one point, Valdez allegedly admitted she did not feel guilty for her actions. For prosecutors, those recordings changed everything. The defense later argued the girls were simply immature teenagers struggling to process fear and shock. But the footage told a very different story. The judge no longer saw frightened children caught in a terrible mistake. He saw emotional detachment, a chilling absence of remorse. And eventually, both girls were charged as adults because prosecutors argued they posed an ongoing danger to the community. But maybe that is where the true horror of this story actually exists. Not only in the knife, not only in the stalking, not only in the violent fantasies hidden behind school hallways, but in the collision between teenage imagination and irreversible reality. The internet did not physically hold the weapon. It did not walk through those hallways. But somewhere between obsession, isolation, and online glorification of violence, two teenagers slowly lost the ability to separate fantasy from humanity. And if one anonymous student had stayed silent for just one more night, this story might have ended with a funeral instead of an arrest.